Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Mrs. Gallagher, and today we're going to discuss volume of cones. So let's refresh what volume is. Volume is the number of cubic units needed to fill a solid. It's also known as the total inside area. And today we're going to discuss how to find a volume of a cone. So a cone is a three-dimensional shape that has one base that is a circle. So if you look below at the example one, your base is a circle and it meets at a common vertex. So here's your vertex. It all meets at a vertex. So how do we find our volume of a cone? We're going to use the formula volume equals 1/3 times the area of the base times our height of our solid, which is a cone. So how do we get this formula? Where did the 1/3 come from? Well, we multiply by 1/3 because it is 1/3 of a cylinder. Okay, so a cone is 1/3 of a cylinder. So we multiply by 1/3 because a cone is 1/3 of a cylinder. Our B represents the area of the base, which is a circle. So our B represents the area of the base, which is a circle. And how do we find our area of a circle? Refresh your memory. Area equals pi times radius squared. And then lastly is our H, which stands for our height, and that is the height of the three-dimensional figure. So our H represents the height of the cone. So now after discussing how we get the formula for the volume of a cone, let's replace our B with the area of a circle. So the formula you're going to use is volume equals 1/3, because it's 1/3 of a cylinder, times your area of a circle, which is pi times radius squared, and then you're going to multiply that by the height of the solid. So that is the formula we're going to use here. 1/3 pi radius squared times your height of the whole cone of the solid. Okay, so now let's do some examples together. Okay, so let's look at example one. It says find the volume of each cone. And if you identify your shape here, this is a cone. We have a circle as our base and it comes to a vertex. So we're going to use our formula. Volume equals 1/3 pi times radius squared times our height. So let's first identify our radius and our height. Our radius of the circle, half the diameter, is 12, so that's our radius. And our height is how tall the 3D solid is, which is 5. So our height is equal to 5. Now notice you have 13 here. And some people confuse the 13 as the height, but this isn't the height. This is actually called the slant height. So the number 13 is the slant height, and that is not the height of the solid. The height of the solid is usually your dashed line that goes right up and down. Okay, so now let's replace what we know, substitute. Volume equals 1/3 pi. My radius is 12 squared, and you're times that by the height, which is 5. Now what I always do first is I like to do my exponent, 5 order operations. So volume equals 1/3 pi. 12 squared is 144, and you're timesing that by 5. So now my next step, I like to multiply my two numbers together before I multiply by my fraction. So I have volume equals 1/3 pi, and then 144 times 5 gives me 720. My next step, I want to multiply 1/3 and 720. And 1/3 of 720 is 240. So now you have 240 pi. Now this would be my answer if I asked you to leave it in terms of pi. Now if I asked you to find the volume to the nearest tenth, you're going to multiply 240 by pi, and you're going to get 753.9822. And we want to round to the 10th. So our 10th is right here. Now notice it's an 8. Since it's an 8, it's going to push that 9 up, which is going to push up our 1 spot. So your final answer is going to be 754. Our unit, we don't have a unit here, so it's going to be units cubed. And that is our final answer. Always remember to label it units cubed when dealing with volume. Okay, so now let's look at example 2. Again, we want to write our formula down. Volume equals 1/3 pi times radius squared times our height. So let's first identify our radius and our height. So we are given 4 here, but notice 4 is our diameter. So what would our radius be? Our radius would be equal to half the diameter. So we're dividing 4 by 2. So our radius is equal to 2. And then our height, how tall, is 4. So our h is 4. Let's substitute our numbers. So 1/3 times pi. Our radius we found out was 2. So you're squaring that. And then you're timesing that by 4, your height. So you have volume equals 1/3 pi. 2 squared is 4. And times that by 4. My next step I like to do is multiply my numbers. So volume equals 1/3 pi times 16. And my next step is I want to multiply my fraction 1/3 by 16. And I'll get 5.33. It's repeating pi. Okay, that's what I would do if I want to leave it in terms of pi. Now, if I'm going to round to the nearest 10th, you're going to multiply 5.33 repeating times pi. And that's going to give you 16.75516. We want to round to our 10th spot. So it's a 5, so you're going to move it up. So it'll be 16.8. And you're going to label that centimeters cubed. All right, let's do another example together. So let's look at example 3. We're going to determine missing lengths. So it states the volume of a cone is 405 pi inches cubed with a diameter of 18 inches. Find the height of the cone. So we're given the volume and we're finding a cone, so let's use our formula. Volume equals 1/3 pi times radius squared times our height. And what's given in this problem? Well, the first thing given is the volume of a cone is 405 pi. So let's replace our V with 405 pi. Equals 1/3 in pi, that's our constant. All right, and now our radius squared and our height. So let's see what else it states in the problem. With a diameter of 18 inches. So if our diameter is 18 inches, our radius would be equal to 9. Half the diameter. So let's replace our radius with 9 squared. And the question is asking us for the height. So we're looking for h. Our next step you want to do first, let's multiply our 9 squared. 9 times 9. So we have 405 pi equals 1/3 pi times 9 squared. 9 times 9 is 81. We have our h. Your next step, we're going to multiply 1/3 and 81. So 1/3 of 81 is 27. So 405 pi equals 27 pi. And then you're timesing that by h. Our next step, you want to get your height by itself. So here you're multiplying. So we're going to undo by dividing both sides by 27 pi. Okay. So these are going to cancel, the 27s and the pi. The pi's are going to cancel here because pi divided by pi is 1. And now we're going to say 405 divided by 27, which is going to give us 15. We're talking about inches. So 15 inches equals our height. And that is our answer. Let's do one more example together. So let's look at example 4. Let's find the volume of each solid in terms of pi. So here's our 3D shape. And what do we notice here? We notice it's made up of two shapes. Our first shape is a cone. And our second shape on the bottom is a cylinder. So we have a cone and a cylinder. And we want to find the total volume. So to find the total volume, we're going to add the two volumes together. So let's first find the volume of a cone. And to find the volume of a cone, volume equals 1/3 pi times radius squared times our height. So for our cone, our radius is 3 and our height is 4. So now let's replace. So we have volume equals 1/3 pi. Our radius is 3 and we're squaring that. And our height is 4. Our next step, we want to square 3, which is 9. So volume is 1/3 pi times 9 times 4. I like to then multiply my numbers. So 9 times 4 is 36. So volume is 1/3 pi times 36. And then I'm going to multiply 1/3 times 36. 1/3 of 36 is 12. So volume equals 12 pi. And we're leaving it in pi because directions state in terms of pi. Next, let's find the cylinder's volume. And remember to find a cylinder, volume equals pi times radius squared times h, the height. So volume is pi. My radius for the cylinder, again, is 3. It's the same radius. And now my height of the cylinder is 8.5. So we have 3 squared. We're going to replace the r with 3, and our height is 8.5. Next step, 3 squared. So volume equals pi times 9 times 8.5. And now I'm going to multiply my numbers. So 9 times 8.5 gives us 76.5 pi. And then our last step to find our total, the total is going to be equal to our answer we got for the volume of a cone, which is 12 pi, plus our answer we got for the cylinder, which is 76.5 pi. And then when you add them together, 12 pi plus 76.5, you're just going to add 12 plus 76.5. Therefore, your volume is equal to 88.5 pi. Our units is centimeters, and we're going to cube that. And that is your final answer. So now what I'd like you to do is the you try section. Please complete problems 1 and 2, and we will discuss it in class. Thank you.